What's poppin', everybody? This is the cartoon kid, Ray Rawlins. And for today's video, man, I'm dipping back into SpongeBob Season 1 to get out a good old classic episode called Ripped Pants. Now, I'm sure that most, if not all, of the SpongeBob OGs know this episode, but you guys know what I gotta do, man, for the people who don't know it. Before I start breaking this episode down, I gotta give y'all that episode breakdown. This episode primarily focuses around our good old spongy homie SpongeBob SquarePants trying to impress, I guess you could say, his squirrel girlfriend. I mean, they're not, together. Although, that apparently is one of the big rumors in the SpongeBob rumor bill. But he's trying to impress Sandy nonetheless. Whether he's trying to get her to be his girlfriend or his best friend, he's trying to impress Sandy nonetheless. So, the episode starts off with them hanging out, and SpongeBob's trying to do the basic guy thing, trying to get the girl to laugh as much as he can, to be the little comedian, right? And Larry comes up out of nowhere and says, "Hey Sandy, hey SpongeBob," kind of not wanting to say hey to SpongeBob, showing that guy jealousy, I suppose. And then he asks Sandy and peripherally SpongeBob if they wanted to go lift some weights. So they went to go lift some weights and whatnot. And this is where you see that SpongeBob isn't a huge weightlifter. I mean, obviously, you could have guessed, right? With the, how do they say about Squidward, the rubbery arms and the doughiness in the midsection? Well, SpongeBob doesn't have the doughiness, but he has the girly arms either way. So SpongeBob's not a weightlifter. He sees that he's not gonna impress Sandy or compete with Larry by doing some weightlifting. So inadvertently, later on in the episode, he ends up ripping his pants, right? And all the people seem to get a pretty good kick out of this, especially Sandy. And this is what pretty much wins SpongeBob over. And throughout the entirety of the episode, he's just beating this joke into the freaking dirt by ripping his pants over and over and over again. However, he takes this joke a little bit too far by pretending he was drowning, and when everyone came to approach him, he does the whole ripped his pants joke again, and people weren't liking it. The joke was played out, and especially Sandy was disgusted by it, because she's like, "Man, y'all had me worried sick." So SpongeBob pretty much took this as a sign that he had to change things up. Once he realized that everyone abandoned him, he's like, "Man, am I the biggest loser on the beach?" And you see these three people come up, one with sunburn, one who got buried and forgotten, and, well, another person with sand in his buttons, right? And they break into this big old song about publicly being accepted, to which after Sandy comes up, she's like, "Man, if you want to just be my friend, you should have just been yourself." And even Larry was impressed by this whole performance that SpongeBob put on, that he even asked him to, well, sign his pants. And then, what do you know, the episode ends with SpongeBob's pants ripped again. So there you have it. That was a pretty long and extensive summary of the episode. You guys know how I like to do these things. I like to fill y'all in on everything that's going down with the episode. So, my first impressions, man, as you guys already know if you've seen any of my previous classic SpongeBob reviews, I like to compare how I felt about the episode watching it today to when I actually seen it for the first time as a kid. Or how I felt about it as a kid in general. I gotta be honest with you, man, this was one of those episodes that I really didn't care too much about. Primarily, that's because, it didn't have any of my favorite characters in it. I mean, SpongeBob is cool and all, I love the spongy homie, but if you've seen any of my SpongeBob reviews, man, you know I love the pink starfish homie, Mr. Patrick Star. Mr. Krabs is cool, Squidward's cool and all that, but it was just missing all the fundamental characters that I personally like for a SpongeBob episode. But that's not any reason to take away points in a review or anything like that. That's just my personal reason why I didn't really enjoy this episode as a kid. And to me, it felt kind of, I wouldn't say basic, but it didn't feel like a entertaining SpongeBob episode. For me personally, I didn't really take to it as a kid. I wouldn't put this in my top 5, top 3, or hell, maybe even top 10 favorite SpongeBob SquarePants episode as a kid. But watching it again as an adult made me realize how special this SpongeBob episode really is, simply for the message that it portrays. And I'm going to get back into that a little bit later during my review portion, but I want to talk about some of my favorite moments of the episode. The number one thing that I kind of appreciate about this episode is that SpongeBob's main goal is to impress Sandy, whether it be, as I said, for a best friend or a girlfriend, man. Me being a guy, and hell, most guys can even attest to this, we all go through that stage of where we have that girl that we got the crush on, and we want to try to impress her in one way or another. Maybe it's by making her laugh or telling a funny joke. Honestly, that's the main way SpongeBob was doing it. He was trying to get Sandy to laugh, and he was trying to be the comedian. You want the girl to think that you're cool. And SpongeBob wasn't only battling for Sandy's appreciation of him, I suppose. He was dealing with public acceptance issues as well. Because you can see that he really took to it when people started laughing at the fact that he ripped his pants. And they were starting to praise him in a way. He was like, man, this is cool. I get to feel like Mr. Popular. I'm glad I can get that reaction out of everybody. And this is demonstrated throughout the episode when he ripped his pants 95,000 times. So you can see there that not only SpongeBob wanted to be accepted by Sandy, but he wanted to be accepted by the general public. Obviously, Sandy got the whole I'm doing this for you more than everyone else treatment, but ultimately SpongeBob was doing that over and over again for everyone, not just Sandy. He wanted to be accepted by everyone, which is something that a lot of kids, I feel, are not only dealing with today, but they were dealing with it back then when this episode was released in the early 2000s. Hell, I want to say it was even the early not the early 1990s, maybe like 1997, 1999, whatever the season 1 of SpongeBob was released. Another cool thing that stood out to me today is the dude, the surfer's country sounding dude. I'll probably insert a clip of it somewhere in here, who shows up with that weird ass laugh, man. And I just want to say, listen, if we can get an episode about Fred, the My Leg guy, where's the episode with this weird laughing dude, man? I want to see an episode about him. I like him. I like his voice. I think he's a cool dude. He seems like he's some type of, I don't know, hipster fish. I don't know, man. I'd love to see a cool episode about him, because we've seen him appear multiple times throughout the SpongeBob series. And I can't remember if he's appeared in any recent episodes, but that voice and that laugh is synonymous with the series, especially like the early seasons. So I'd love to get an episode on this guy, whoever he is. Primarily because he seems like a cool, laid-back fish dude, alright? So, someone at Nickelodeon, make that ish happen. Another thing that I wanted to point out was the scene where SpongeBob actually pretended that he was drowning, and he had everyone scared for their lives. I always say it, man, whenever scenes like this arise. Hell, this is something for a TVY7 program? I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I know the whole rules of what to and what to not include in a TVY7 program, but something as crazy as that, I don't think should be included. That's just my opinion, but you know what? I always appreciate it when SpongeBob and other series, but more notably SpongeBob, push the boundaries of what to and what to not include. This scene right here shows kids that, hey, whenever you find something that's funny or whenever you're doing something for your peers, don't go fucking overboard like this, man. You're doing too much. Just like SpongeBob did in that scene right there. He ended up turning a funny little joke that was already getting worn out pretty much to a thing where people didn't even want to be around him. Like, man, you're doing too much, all right? Y'all had me worried sick, as Sandy said. It was still a cool scene nonetheless, but the main thing that I really liked about this episode is that song and performance at the end, man. Listen, I hate music in shows. For some reason, I just don't like it. I didn't like it in The Simpsons. I kind of necessarily didn't like it in Family Guy, but you know, they had some cool songs there. But I, for some reason, definitely don't like when they burst out into a song and performances in SpongeBob. I don't like it. For some weird reason, it just does not gel well with me. There's only 2 songs that I liked from the SpongeBob series that I could think of right off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's more. But there's 2 songs rather, that I like, and that was this song right here that they performed at the end, the Ripped Pants one, man. That one just hit right. I liked how it sounded. I appreciate the melody. I loved how it was performed. And as always, man, it's cool that it had a nice message ingrained in it too. So I like that song, and the Band Geeks one was pretty cool right at the end. And I mean, come on, I have to mention it, although it doesn't count, but it sounded cool. The Squidward Tiki Tiki song, the Tiki Land one, which I need to review that episode sometime in the future too. I like that one. But that does it for all my favorite moments of the episode. Let's slide on into the review. Like I said earlier, man, this was one of those episodes that I didn't really appreciate as a kid, but watching it again as an adult made me realize how impactful this episode could be to kids today who are watching it. Primarily because with the introduction of like social media and stuff like that, kids want to do stuff to impress their peers. And that was even true all the way back then when this episode was first released. But I think that's played up even more today because of the introduction of social media. They are more interested in seeing how their likes on their social media posts and pictures and whatnot compare to their friends. And you can even argue that they're kind of, I wouldn't say obsessed, but one of their goals is to be Mr. or Mrs. Popular. Or hell, not even that. They just want to be generally accepted by their peers and everyone around them. The overall message of this episode is to be yourself. Don't do things for other people. Do things because you want to do them for yourself. Like SpongeBob. He shouldn't have ripped his pants those 95,000 times, you know? The only time he should have ripped his pants was that first time when it happened unintentionally. He shouldn't have intentionally have done that over and over again just to get laughs out of everyone, and hell, Sandy too. This episode shows kids that they shouldn't do things for acceptance of anyone, whether it be a girl or the general public. They should do things because they want to do them, and they should just primarily be themselves. They shouldn't be focused on anyone's acceptance besides their own. And I feel that that's a powerful message that should be touted a lot, especially today. And I feel that this episode really does that well, especially with the performance at the end, man. That's a nice catchy ass song, if I do say so myself. However, this isn't an episode that I can say that's in my, I say, top 10, top 5, or top 3 favorite episodes of SpongeBob. It has a cool ass message that I didn't necessarily pay attention to as a kid, but especially seeing it as an adult, I was like, man, you know what? This is cool. I like this. And that's the whole fun thing about reviewing these episodes now as an adult. I'm going back there and checking things out that I probably didn't notice or really pay attention to as a kid. But to sum it all up, this episode has a pretty good message that every child needs to hear today. You need to be yourself, and if people don't accept you for who you are, well then, hey, screw them. I mean, that's pretty much it, really. If no one likes you for you, then hey, it's okay. Someone eventually will. And that's what Sandy said to SpongeBob. She said, if you wanted to be my friend, you should have just been yourself. And you know, that's the overall message. And even SpongeBob earned Larry's acceptance at the end of the episode, because he poured his heart out in that song, man. So that's pretty cool. Just be yourself, kids, man. Overall, as I said earlier, this episode's not going to make my favorites list, but one thing I can say, it's definitely memorable. It's not going to be an episode that when I see it on TV, I'm going to be like, oh snap, it's that ripped pants episode. I'm going to be like, oh cool, you know, hey, it's on here. I'm going to check it out because, you know, nostalgia reasons. But it's not one of those episodes that when it comes on, I'm going to change the channel. It's a pretty cool classic with a pretty damn good message, and it deserves a little bit of appreciation. So I'm going to have to hit this episode with a nice 7 out of 10. This is the cartoon kid, Ray Rollins. Tell me what you think of this episode. Tell me if you liked it. Tell me if you hate it. Tell me what you would rate it. Toss all your opinions down in the comments box below. And also suggest some episodes if you want me to review them from SpongeBob or hell, any other cartoon series. As I say at the end of each and every video, man, until next time, I love y'all. And I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Peace out, everybody.